We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. This can be lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like a chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. I won't be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need. You'll find the keys.
Chasing love in an empty bar. Pour a drink till I make it past. The midnight hour seems to come and go, but I know. Walk on up with a drink in hand, sipping mixers cause you can. And all the lights begin to switch off. You're chasing love, holding on to life. chasing the night. Hotel rooms and city squares, champagne bottles, drum and snare. The sights and cities seem to fall away when you stay. Locked in love for a night or two, losing sleep just to get off you. Day to day you wanna stay out, you're chasing the light, holding on for life, fading in the night, chasing the light, chasing the night, chasing the night.
We're living for the moment now, we're one with the world. I can't lose this feeling I get. My heart's in the right place, and so is my soul, yeah. I won't take no excuses for it. Love it, need it, live it. I feel like something's missing when I do not have it. I feel it in my bones, gotta find my space. These emotions on my face, taking a toll, I gotta pay it forward. I'll give it all that I can. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. Yeah, no what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. If I won't, oh, I'll be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. This can be lifting you. Can't go alone, let's do by two. Doing this together, it's me by you. All through the night, all through the night. This is me, this is you. When we get together, we can all pull through. I don't ever ever wanna stop this groove. Let's get it right. Take it to the Lord, then take it to the grave. Listen to the wise man, tell me what he say. Listen to your heartbeat like it still bleed. A little bit of hope, yeah, it's what we still need. Say a little prayer for the moment. Give what you got, just go in. Can't hold you back if you own it. Live your life like a chosen. No matter what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take no for an answer. If it don't hurt me, it makes me stronger. You know what, I won't let up. It's in my soul, it's in my blood, and I won't take it no more. If I won't, oh, I'll be there. Just leave it to me. I know what I need. You'll find if you see. And if you believe, you live and you breathe, you'll find the key. Know what I need, I know what I need.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV for round 5 of the RCI Porsche Cup Season 2. My name is Ryan Gill, and I am joined tonight by everyone's favourite South African here at RCI. It is the ever-loving George Smith. How are you doing tonight, George?
Ryan, so good to be back and with you, and some more Porsche Cup action coming through. We need to be careful of our favorite South African tag. Like I said before, we're starting to take over RCI, so I don't want you to offend the other South Africans and give them a reference point such as myself to try and live up to. But Ryan, it's my favorite time of the week, which is a Monday, and to be honest, the only reason that I am excited for Mondays is Porsche Cup. Everything else about Mondays, I don't think I could really see on live broadcast, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, we are back, of course, for another round of the Porsche Cup. Of course, we did have the Nürburgring. It was... oh, no, not the Nürburgring, sorry. It was Zandvoort last time out, wasn't it? And we saw the likes of Mike Noble take another victory. But you'll have noticed something on the timing board here tonight, everyone, and that's that Mike Noble is not present. And, of course, what that does mean is that there is a chance for everyone here tonight to close the gap to the championship leader. Of course, Mike Noble off competing in a charity race tonight. So, the likes of Jesper Hillerkalio, Gergo Panka, Ondrej Dedicek, and all the rest are going to be competing for the chance to close that down to possibly even a single digit here tonight. And George, I don't know about you, but that's got me pretty excited that these guys have that kind of pressure on them here tonight.
Indeed. And I mean, the fact that Hillerkalio, Sandstrom, Lawrence, even the likes of Matcha, all fighting out in the championship so close together, that's just going to give us an incredible fight here at Barcelona. And this circuit, for me, one of the racing circuits that I'm quite fond of. I know a lot of people not particularly favored towards it, but for me, it's always got some good racing, and I think in these Porsche Cup cars, we're in for a bit of a treat. I like how we've seen here in this practice session, everybody getting a little bit loose, a little bit wild. At some point there, you can see Ondrej Dedicek just wrestling out with that number 48 Connection Lost Racing at Porsche Cup car. And it's going to be a lot of that throughout this race, especially when the field is bunched up together when we get over to the racing. End of practice, we'll roll in and we'll go over to quali, and that's going to then determine that starting grid. Always want to get yourself towards the front of that.
Yeah, and of course tonight's race, a bit special of course, because you will have noticed at home that it is very dark out here tonight. Practice, qualifying and the race all starting at 8 PM local time in Spain. So of course that does mean that we're going to be in for some rather dark conditions out there, and obviously a 1 hour sprint race here tonight. So what you're seeing out here at the moment is the kind of lighting that we'll see towards the end of the race, and qualifying will be in these kind of conditions as well when we move over to those in just a moment. 14 degrees track temp, George. That's definitely going to be playing a part with the amount of sliding that we've seen out there. In the practice session, we do say that, these cars, you need to be so sensitive on them, especially in the lower gears with the no traction control on this car. But those cooler temperatures out there definitely going to be playing a part over the course of qualifying and the race, do you feel?
For sure. I mean, that would go to explain just why the looser kind of conditions have been at play, and the driver's going to prepare themselves for that quali session. So practice will have given them a bit of an insight as to what the behavior will be. So they've then adjusted the setups accordingly, and hopefully for them, going to be able to go out and really set a nice attacking opening session. They've only got 15 minutes on the clock to do so. Jesper Hillerkalio going to be our driver that we get to follow around for the outlap that he serves. Going to get himself up to temperature before he then attacks for his aggressive quali lap. And check at that, Ryan. He's got himself quite out ahead of the rest of the field. I mean, relatively speaking, you see quite a leap trying to get out towards the front. It's always a bit of a mad line. And right now, Helicalio, he's given himself a nice bit of fresh air up at the front.
He has given himself a nice bit of fresh air, but what he does have to be careful of is that he doesn't get around the circuit too quickly and get caught up with people that are still on their out lap. But looking at how many cars are left in the pit lane and a couple of them trundling down the pit lane right now, I'm not entirely convinced that will be an issue for him. But as you said, it is usually a bit of a mad dash to get out of the pit lane, but a lot of these guys taking it a bit easy today, it would seem. And the lighting conditions at the moment here at the start of qualifying are going to be much better than what they will be towards the end of the race. These guys shouldn't have any problem with visibility over the course of the qualifying session. But as Jesperi Helicalio rounds the final corner, he will take us around a lap of the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, for the first time here in qualifying. So here we go then, across the start line and down towards turn one. Such a long run down towards the first corner. Got to be nice and late on the brakes. Get onto the inside, clip that little anti-cut curb, but don't hit it too hard. Throw yourself into the next sequence of corners. Then you get to the Renault corner, turn 3. Such a long right-hander. You've really got to get the power down as early as possible. Then he makes his way up towards Repsol. Another long right-hander that you've got to get correct here, and it's important to get a nice exit out of here as well. Line yourself up for turn 5. Seat, very tricky corner indeed. You go too wide here, you'll invalidate your lap, and Jesperi Helicalio seems to have that plenty under control. Little bit of snap on the wheel, but nothing to worry about. Then he comes through to Wirth. Looks like good entry on there and good exit as well, not taking too much of the circuit and keeping it well in between the track limits. Makes his way up to one of the higher points of the circuit. Cancer goes nice and wide, but not too wide. Keeps his lap valid, I think, at this point in time. Braking around the 100-meter board towards the hairpin at the end of the back straight. Doesn't go too wide here either. Bounce over these curves, be so careful. Easy to lose the car by taking too much curb. Nice and early on the power coming out of the corner. Then he comes to the third sector, the trickiest part of the circuit. Tricky right-hander, and then he comes to the chicane. Got to take this. Don't hit those anti-curves on the inside. They will ruin your lap. Goes very wide and, in fact, over the yellow curb, and that will be his lap invalidated. And he comes up towards the timing line. Won't set a valid lap, but he will complete the first lap of the qualifying session. But he will have to go again if he wishes to get one on the board that actually has a representative time in terms of qualifying. But Jonathan Bentz seems to be the next driver coming around, and his lap is valid, and it's going to be a 1:48.0 for the South African.
So Jonathan Bentz going to get up onto the timing sheet. So does Alexander Guglia and Matt Samuel. They're going to go and get themselves ahead. Guglia setting a 146.8, 3 tenths behind Samuel with a 147.142. Careful line also going to be here 1.3 seconds off the pace. Quite a couple of cars then maybe invalidating their first laps coming down. 7 cars having set their quali times. And we're looking at Martin Lawrence here in that number 171. Coming out through turn 16. Making a dash down towards the line. Goes up to third place. So we'll start on the second row of the grid temporarily. Gets himself up 1/10 behind the likes of Guglia. Andrzej Dedicek, right? He's up there. 0.07 behind with that 146.9.
He is, and I was just looking out for where Jesperi Helicalio is. He hasn't actually set a lap time yet, down in 14th place to the number 56, and here he is on screen. And just going to see what he's going to be able to do now. Of course, he is second in the championship. We'll have those standings up on screen for you after the qualifying session, but crosses the line, and his first lap out in the qualifying session is good enough for provisional pole by almost a 1/10 of a second over the likes of Alexander Guglia. So Jesperi Hilakalio coming out and showing that he is definitely in favour to try and close that gap up to Mike Noble by the end of this race. I believe it is a 72-point gap. I will have to double check that when we get to the standings later on, but he can reduce that to 9 points, I believe, tonight, if he manages to get pole position, fastest lap, and the race win. So a lot of pressure on Hilakalio if he wants to kind of throw in a late championship run towards the end of this season.
This is a big lap coming up for Dedicek here. This is 3/10 on the timing sheet. It will go up towards the front of the order. The number 48 of Andrzej Dedicek sets 1:46.6. Good enough for temporary pole. A 1/10 quicker than Hilakalio, who temporarily isn't up on his Delta time. Samuel, Flores, Steyn, Roche, Torvinen, and Gill, all cars out on the circuit, all up on their lap times. So a lot of green Delta times coming out, indicating that drivers are finding some time towards the end of quali. Looking at the man in second up towards the front of the order as well, that number 56, Jesperi Hilakalio, out through the final chicane, out through turn 16. Will he better his quali lap this time round? Will he be able to take pole back? And Hilakalio will not be able to fight back. He does do a 1:46.734. So he is going to continue the fight here, Ryan. 7 minutes 30 on the clock before we go over to our hour-long race. So everybody here focused out on the circuit. A couple of cars in the pit lane, but all trying to do their best to get the very best potential start that they can get here.
Yeah, Hilakalio's lap that he just completed there was quicker than his fastest lap, but it was invalidated, so of course it did not count. Here's Daniele Flores for the Racing Line Motorsport entry. 10th place at the moment, will cross the line, go up to 8th for the Racing Line Motorsport boys, and of course plenty familiar around here, and the Porsche Cup scene as well. Of course, his teammate Giacomo Peretti a bit further down in 13th place at the moment, and I believe Alessandro Porta is not present tonight. It does not seem so. Alessandro Porta doesn't look like he'll be joining us for this evening. Giacomo Peretti, though, we are looking at him right now. He's up by almost half a second as he crosses the line. He'll throw himself up into 11th. Not quite enough to get himself into the top 10, but with 6 minutes and 20 seconds left to go, he does still have plenty of time to improve on that. And speaking of improving, Matt Samuel, well, he was up on his lap time, but he has now just dropped 2/10 and is breaking even. And, well, George, we talked about liveries last week, and you weren't too keen on Mike Noble's livery that was inspired by what he was feeling like during the Zandvoort race. Gergo Panker and Matt Samuel today, not running the traditional FFS racing liveries, in fact going for a rather interesting take on their liveries here tonight. I'm not entirely sure what the reason behind it is, but I can tell you that Matt Samuel's is a bit more unpleasant than Gergo Panker's, which is on screen right now.
Gergo Panker, I mean, currently sitting in third place, so he's looking to get himself a good result. We know he had a good race out at Zandy's last week, but talking about the colors on that, green and gold, those are the colors of South Africa. So, for our national teams, green and gold, I'm not going to hate on those in those configurations as they stand. Maybe it's a shout out to the ZA crowd.
Entirely possible.
It's probably entirely not, but I'll claim it. I'll take it any day of the week,
But we'll take what we can get here. And Gergo Panker up into third place at the moment, much higher up than the likes of Jarkko Tolvanen, who he's been pretty even with across the course of the entire season. But Jarkko Tolvanen down in 13th at the moment, so not doing too well for him. Gergo Panker looks to have invalidated that lap, so he's going to pull over and return to the garage. Here is Alexander Guglia, sits almost a quarter of a second off of Ondrej Dedicek's pole position. He's up by half a tenth at the moment, but that will not be enough to send him provisional pole. However, if he could improve on a tenth, could be enough to put him on the front row of the grid. And a lot of these guys quite close together, and what I've been seeing from the timing, George, is that a lot of them seem to have the pace to beat Ondrej Dedicek's time, but, you know, a lot of them struggling to get that one lap strung together.
I think it's all about that track temperature that you touched on during the practice session. It does make it so much more difficult to put the car on the edge, which is what you're wanting to do here. And I think it's oh, look at that. Guglia, oh, just wrestles the back end. The oversteer kicks in. He does a beautiful job of making sure that he still makes the chicane. But it's all about trying to put it onto that edge and then balance it there for as long as possible. And that's going to give you the quickest time. And, you know, Dedicek just kind of showing everybody at the moment who's boss. Maybe Martin Lawrence, the answer to the, you know, proverbial antagonist position here. Maybe he can bring something in there. He's closest at the moment. And with 3 minutes on the clock, he's still going to get this lap in. So definitely looking to bring something in here. An hour-long race in the Cup cars is certainly enough time to get work done here as well. I feel like, you know, Catalonia just has some interesting braking points. Again, very similar to Zandvoort. It's quite tight in terms of the racing line. You can't really afford to go 2 cars wide. Car on the outside often loses out, but some interesting segments like turns 1, 2, and 3. You want to be as quick as you can on the exit coming into turn 3, so sacrificing things. It's you know, all about finding something. Martin Lawrence finding something indeed, and that's going to be tenths through apexes. The number 171, 4 tenths up at the moment. This is going to be an incredibly quick lap if he manages it to get it to the line. Ryan into the final chicane here, out through turn 15. Just going to make sure you don't run too wide before you get onto the inside apex for turn 16. Carrying the momentum around, Martin Lawrence here will make the dash down, taking pole position with a 146.2. And that will be 3 tenths quicker than Dedicek. Guglia, he's also up on his time as he comes out through the final corner. Over the line, goes up to second there, 146.5. So still not as quick as what Lawrence has done. But Ryan, those times quickly tumbled down.
Alexander Guglia lost 2 tenths in the chicane. So looking at how far behind Lawrence he was, maybe if he'd carried those 2 tenths, maybe got a bit of a better entry and exit to that final corner, could have taken provisional pole away from the likes of Martin Lawrence. But Martin Lawrence doing everything that he needs to do. Of course, he is the only driver this year to have won a race whose name isn't Mike Noble. And Martin Lawrence will be hoping to do the same in Mike Noble's absence. And of course, thrust himself back up to the front of the order. Meanwhile, it seems that Alexander Guglia and Ondrej Dedicek going to be looking to improve on their times. Ondrej Dedicek up by a tenth of a second at the moment, but it's not going to be enough to throw himself up to pole position. Will put himself back on the front row of the grid, though. And even the likes of Jarkko Torvinen improving now as well. He's 3 tenths of a second up, as is Giacomo Peretti and Andreas Keiferlein. So everyone's starting to improve now, George. And I'm just wondering if right at the end of the session, has the track grip level changed at all? I mean, it's been saying optimum for the entire session, but, you know, starting to think now that potentially the grip levels have come good right at the end of the session, and that's what we're starting to see from these improved lap times. Looking at Giacomo Peretti at the moment, sits 13th. 3 tenths of a second up on his lap time at the moment, going to come up towards the timing line now. How far up the order will he go? Into the top 10, and it's 8th, 4th row of the grid. is the highest that Giacomo Peretti will start. He will be happy with that on his final run. But it's not quite decided yet for the front row of the grid. Ondrej Dedicek is still going around, as is Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence breaking even at the moment on his lap time. Ondrej Dedicek up by almost 0.2 of a second. He needs to find a bit more than that. Will he be able to challenge Martin Lawrence into the final lap of the qualifying session? Loses it coming into the final corner, and it's not going to be enough. He had the 0.2. He couldn't quite find it right at the end. So Martin Lawrence will take pole position here at Barcelona. But Ondrej Dedicek will end qualifying knowing that he had the chance to take that provisional pole. So as we wait for the rest of them to finish out qualifying, here is Peter Roche in 12th place at the moment. He's up on his lap time by almost 0.2 of a second. He'll go up to 9th place, put himself into the top 10. And not bad there from one of the Connection Lost Racing guys. And Gergo Panka, very late on, will throw himself up into the top 3 as well. And an identical lap time to that of Ondrej Dedicek to end out the session. So what an incredible end to qualifying. Everyone finding time right at the end, but Dedicek just not able to keep it together right at the end of qualifying. And Martin Lawrence will know that coming into the race, that Dedicek is there, he's on the front row, and he's got the pace to challenge him today. So, with qualifying coming to an end, we can have a look at the championship standings for tonight. Did say that we would bring them up, have a little look, see how everyone is doing, and here they are. Mike Noble, 242 points, not present tonight. So, 72-point gap between himself and Jesperi Hillicalio. That could be much, much lower towards, well, it will be much lower towards the end of this race, but how low will it be? That depends on everyone out there on track. In fact, Jesperi Hillicalio, second in the championship, has qualified 6th here today. So he's got some work to do if he wants to close the gap as much as possible. Sundstrom and Martin Lawrence find themselves equal on points with 169. Bart Matcher and Peter Roche, 5th and 6th in the championship. Just 5 points between those two. 10 points between 2nd and 6th. Ondrej Dedicek and Alexander Guglia find themselves 7th and 8th. And then Giacomo Peretti and Matt Samuel round out the top 10 for the first page.
Looking down to the second page here in 11th place, Gergo Panka sitting on 117 points, just 2 points ahead of Andreas Keflin on 115. In 13th place, Jack Boswell at number 47 on 104 points, just 3 ahead of Jan Matches. You can see how close this championship is. Jan Matches in 14th, just 1 ahead then of Daniela Flores in 15th place. He's on 100 points. Then tied on 94 points apiece, Alessandro Porter, Dustin Vust, and David Gill. Then in 19th place, Jaakko Torvinen on 89 points. And rounding out the top 20, that 555 of Marcus Steen on 67.
Then we have the likes of Wojciech Brigus, Jonathan Bentz, Andy Boardman, Quaid Claessens, and Stephen Vust from 21st through to 25th. Pascal Bobbert and Sebastian Luigi Vita, Panos Kratos, Matteo Rector, and Nick Reinders. And quite a few of these drivers, unfortunately, have signed out of the championship or been disqualified through 2 no-shows for the season. So quite a few of these guys towards the bottom of the order, unfortunately, no longer with us for the championship. And it should be the same for the last couple of names on the list here. Yep, Cody Pride and Jan Saganowski as well with 0 points. So that's the championship standings. Everyone knows where we are and who is the one to beat. And usually it would be Mike Noble that is the man to beat on track. But everyone's going to be beating Mike Noble today because he's not present tonight. And the man on pole position is Martin Lawrence. He'll have Dedicek alongside him on the front row of the grid. And here we go as we return to the live scenes here at Barcelona, Catalonia. Just under 3 minutes to go until the formation lap. 18 cars on the grid for tonight's race. And George, well, we've seen a fairly, should we say, routine performance from Mike Noble for most of these races so far this season. And it's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do now that, they're going to be the ones competing for first place, as, well, the man of the season is currently unavailable for this round. But either way, George, take us through the grid.
Absolutely here. And I mean, you know what, Ryan, before we even have a look at the grid, just touching on the points that you've brought up there, the fact that Mike Noble isn't here to show us the dominant performance that he can perform in these Porsche Cup cars. I think that being opened up to an incredible list of drivers means that our Barcelona round here is going to be exciting to see who gets crowned up top. And that, of course, opens things up for the rest of the order to also progress and get themselves some extra points. You saw how close they are in these championship standings. Every point counts. Coming into the penultimate round here, this one next week, it's all you've got left to see where you finish up. And these Porsche Cup rounds and championships that we throw for RCI, I mean, these are going to be thrown in futures to come. And you kind of want to be crowned a champion of at least one of them, or get yourself into the top 10. And that's kind of available for a lot of these people here today.
It is, and of course, we will have some more Cup Series going on in the new year. We've kind of talked about that briefly in a couple of our latest events. And if anyone's seen the race program for the 3 hours of Imola, you'll already know what the next Cup Series is. It's only going to be a short one, 3-round series, Ferrari 488 2020 Evo Cup. So using the Ferrari in a Cup event, so kind of like the 488 challenges in a way. But we're going to be doing it at all 3 of the Italian circuits, Misano, Monza, and now Imola. So that's going to be coming in for the new year. And of course, we do have our Friday Championship and our World Tour going on, as well as Season 3 of Night Owl and Season 3 of the GT4 Championship returning as well. But 25 seconds away from the start of the formation lap. And that will lead into quite nicely for us to have a bit of a rundown through the grid. All the lights turning on for these cars. The flash of the lights there from Ondrej Dedicek and Martin Lawrence means that we are ready to pan through the grid.
Absolutely. Martin Lawrence and Ondrej Dedicek lining up on the front row in first and second. Gergo Panka and Alexander Guglia on that second row in third and fourth. Matt Samuel and Jesperi Helikelio in 5th and 6th place. Mikael Sandström starts in 7th. Jarkko Torvinen in 8th. 9th for Peter Roche. Giacomo Peretti in 10th place, rounding out the top 10. And down towards the bottom of that as they all peel away. In 11th, Bart Matcha. Daniela Flores in 12th. Marcus Steen starts 13th. Andreas Kefelen in 14th, Jan Matches in 15th, Jonathan Bentz down in 16th, 17th for David Gill, and rounding out the 18 cars starting tonight, Wojtek Burgess in that 3-2-3.
So here we go then. Penultimate round of the championship. We were expecting Mike Noble to be here today to, pretty much confirm himself as champion. All he needed to do tonight was be present and finish the race for himself to count as championship winner. But instead, we're going to potentially be looking at a grand season finale next week. And of course, speaking of next week, or rather this week to be more precise, the 9 hours of Imola, Jardier's Winter Special, will be going on this weekend. And George, I know that we're both super hyped for that, and we're not gonna reveal it yet, but we will be having a bit of a special guest joining us for commentary for the 9 hour. And, you know,
I can't wait for it,
in
Ryan.
in the esports scene.
For me, the 9 hours is going to be incredible. I haven't had too much experience out at Imola, so for me, getting as much racing on the newer circuits that we get, it's going to be incredible. And like you said, some new voices joining up in the comms box for some different things, always going to add to the mix. So yeah, I'm incredibly excited for what's left from the Racing Club International side of things. 2020 has been a tough year for a lot of people. But for the sim racing side of things, it's been absolutely incredible to see the growth. So a massive shout out to all you guys in the chat that have made all of this possible. All our drivers, of course, for participating, our Discord community for growing up, and those partners down at the bottom that you see there, RaceDepartment AK Informatica and Raceface Speed Labs. So Ryan, as they go 2 by 2, my spidey senses are tingling. I'm starting to get very, very excited.
18 cars on the grid for tonight. 9 rows of Porsche Cup goodness and 60 minutes of racing away. Live stewarding present here tonight. 1 mandatory pit stop for all of these guys, and they get ready to do battle for an hour of racing. Penultimate round of the season then. Lawrence on pole, Dedicek alongside him, and we are green for the run down to turn 1 here at Barcelona. Seems to be a good start from the likes of Martin Lawrence. Ondrej Dedicek tucking in behind. Gergo Panka in behind him as well as they fall down towards turn 1. A couple of people late on the brakes there. And is that Matt Samuel diving on the inside of Gergo Panka? He's going to take 1. He's going to take 2 as they'll take Guglia as well. And what a start from the Brit.
I mean, you just gotta notice that they just went 4 cars wide into turn 1, managed to keep it pretty neat and tidy into turn 2, and then turn 3 is where things were really made up, and they're still fighting down into Repsol. Turn 4 is where there's still 2 or 3 cars abreast down towards the mid-pack. Up at the front, things starting to settle down, maybe into a little bit of a train, but look at that, down out through the exit of turn 5, still a little battle coming down, and this is a part of the track where you can't really afford to go 2 cars wide, and up the inside the moves are going to be made. The number 56 going to be on the inside. Gergo Panka going to be knocked out wide. He is going to run onto the dirt, going to take to the escape road. That's going to cost him a lot of time as he comes to rejoin. A lot of cars behind him going to make up positions up towards the front. Matt Samuel, he's still trying to knife his way through as they come to round out this first lap. What an interesting first lap it's been. Nice and clean, nice and tidy. A little tap coming out before the back stretch there that we saw on screen. But Ryan, this is the racing that I like to see in the Porsche Cup cars. They are into those trains as they come down into the chicane. You can't go 2 abreast through there, but you do want to be really nice and tucked up for the exit here at turn 16. The start-finish straight is where you can make or break in that slipstream. This is where you're equally matched out and who can go bigger on the brake. Set yourself up for turn 3. That's what it's all about. And Googly here trying to get 3rd place back from Matt Samuel there. And the 2 of them not quite close enough to make that a fight coming down into turn 3. But as you see in the background, plenty of action happening in the midfield for positions all around.
Jonathan Bentz was the car we saw off in the background at the end of the back straight, so not a great start for him. The number 310 off the back of the pack at the moment, and the number 40 car, I think that was the likes of Andreas Keiferlein. He's into the pit lane already, and apparently we do have a replay of what happened on track, so we'll get that on screen for you just now. What exactly happened between these two? Looks like it was just a case of, coming back on track. Jonathan Bentz just collided with the likes of Andreas Keiferlein.
I mean, it was even maybe the snap of that oversteer that kicked him on that curb. Like you said early on, you have to be so gentle with how you apply the throttle here, and just kick back car alongside And yeah, sends him off track, and will keep him licking his wounds now, needing to catch up to a very dominant pack. Early on in the race, Ryan, losing positions, that's where it's costly, because this is where a lot of the guys will now start to stretch themselves out, and you want to be able to hold on to the slip. You want to be able to tuck in as we ride on board with Helicalio, looking back at Mikael Sandstrom. And that slipstream for Sandstrom, that's where he wants to stay. He wants to try and tidy up those exits out before the start-finish straight and try and get himself into that battling position. We just saw how incredibly the likes of Samuel started out that race, right? I mean, you were calling it early on. He just had a look. He had 2 cars that were pretty much for breakfast coming in. It can just show you what you can do early on. And for now, just going to have to settle in, I suppose. 55 minutes remain on the clock. The first lap chaos and madness is dealt with. You see a couple of straggler cars on the track. A couple of those guys have gone in to serve their mandatory stops. They're going to, make use of that as quick as they can, I suppose. If it's gone bad, why not?
Yeah, Gerger Panker and Marcus Stein, 2 of the cars coming out of the pit lane now, and they've got the likes of Andreas Keiferlein for company now, so a little trainer 3 there, right at the back. But of course, we focus ourselves here on Jesperi Helicalio with Sundstrom right in behind him, and of course, these guys are competing for, second in the
Sundstrom, what a move! Oh, that
late
was...
breaks from Helicalio, and Sundstrom taking full advantage there. And
that was
managing
delicious.
to get himself past. Well done for Sundstrom, but it's not done yet, because Bart Matcher, he's been in inspired form lately as well, and he's going to take Helicalio as well, it seems.
Helicalio not going to be able to get back across to defend there for Matcher, so 1-2 positions lost, all in the sequence of 3 corners there for Helicalio. What a move from Sundstrom coming down into the braking zone there for turn 10. Spotted that the car in front of him had gone a little bit deep, cuts back on the inside, and Matcher just holding on, sees the opportunity, and will capitalize as well. Here we see Peter Rocher and Daniele Flores having a nice little 2-car battle. This, for them, is going to be incredibly good if they can, keep ahead of the likes of Giacomo Prietti in the background of the shot. And behind them, they've then got Matches as well. So as long as it stays a 2-car battle for them, it's beneficial for both drivers. As soon as 3-4 cars start to come in, those defensive moves. Look at the flashing lights in the background there. The 420 of Flores, just saying, I'm here. I want to attack. I want to have a look. So if you leave a gap, I'm going to take it. The Racing Line Motorsport 420 on board now, as we get some nice varying perspectives from the beauty of these Cup cars. And Ryan, I know you're not a fan of the soundtrack of them, but I mean, you can be wrong, I suppose. I love them.
I'm a fan up until 6th gear, but we'll leave that conversation for another day, because there has been. At least
there's not a lot of. There's not a lot of 6th gear here, so then that's
been a
also
significant
good.
development on track, George. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Alexander Guglia, who got overtaken by Matt Samuel, has gone into the pit lane and served his mandatory stop. Now, I can only imagine that means Guglia was struggling to get past Matt Samuel, and he's taken the advice that you would often give out on stream here to the drivers for free of charge, which is, if you're stuck behind someone, you don't think you can get past them, come into the pit lane, serve that mandatory stop, get yourself some clean air, and get your head down. And that's exactly what Alexander Guglia has done. So it's going to be important to note, when Matt Samuel comes in for his pit stop, will Guglia be ahead or behind? That is going to be the question we need to answer ourselves. Meanwhile, Mikael Sundstrom closing in on the likes of Jarkko Torvinen, running a very different FFS Racing livery to the likes of Matt Samuel and Gergo Panker for this Monday night race. And you can see Ondrej Stedešek just staying in touch of Martin Lawrence as well. 8 minutes into this race, still plenty yet to play for.
I love the fact that little early pit stop strategy might be something that we can analyze a little bit later on. Hopefully the advice that I've been giving out for free actually comes to light with a bit of a benefit. Otherwise, we've been handing out bad information, I suppose. But we see Sundstrom running a little bit wide out through the exit of turn 9. That's going to cost him not only on the chase down to the likes of Torvinen, but it's going to cost some valuable time to the likes of Matcha. You can hear my co-caster wooing, and the wooing is indeed very much granted, because Matcha, we've seen how dominant he can be when he gets his head in the game, and he can be a very aggressive driver when it comes to putting pressure on. Mikael Sundstrom needs to be careful that he doesn't fall to the fate of what happened to Healy Kallio. A small mistake here and there, Matcha will take advantage. It does look like Sundstrom has managed to get out onto that start-finish straight, at least a couple car lengths ahead, which means that turns 1, 2, and 3 should be okay. And I say should be because anything can change at any moment. And that 899 going to hug the inside apex. That's the line you want to go on. Matcha then going to maybe try and find something with a bit of a cutback, a bit of a wider line. It's not the way that you want to go out through turn 3, and that's going to cost him. But Sundstrom very deep into and out of the exit of Repsol, which is going to allow Matcha all over the back end of him once again. Turn 5, what can they do here? The number 55 trying to put so much pressure onto that 899. The black and gold trying to hold off the likes of the white, black, and orange. And that number 55, getting a little bit squiggly through the chicane there, Ryan. And you can see maybe a little bit of that close aero variation being caught in the following driver's position at this point. I mean, Matcha needs to be... he needs to... You can see that he gets kind of close, and then these mid and slow speed corners, he really starts to, struggle with that exit. It's all about that exit that he's not quite getting at this point in time. But putting so much pressure on, Sundstrom cannot even focus on catching back up to that number 15 in front.
Bart Matcher has improved a lot as a driver lately. It's been something we've been monitoring over the course of the Endurance Championship we were running, and it's something I saw in the previous Monday Cup event, the McLaren Masters Cup, which he did go on to win the championship for, by the way. Bart Matcher has improved so much, and one of the things I think he has improved so much is that ability to pressure an opponent in front, to stay on the back of them for an extended period of time, force them into a mistake, and it is a skill. It's not really something that, you can't really teach it. You kind of have to learn it on your own, but being able to follow someone so closely and, kind of keep them looking in their mirrors, if you will, is a really, really good skill to have as a racing driver, and it can help you so much when you're trying to overtake people. And of course, the longer you can stay right on the back of someone's bumper, not only does it increase the chance for them to make mistakes as well, it can also just increase the chance for you to capitalize on any mistake. It's one thing being on the back of someone. It's another thing to be on the back of someone when they make a mistake. You have to be there. You have to capitalize. We saw the likes of Sundstrom do that earlier on. And I think as he just clips the gravel there, Bart Matcher, is he going to have a look now? He's going to be on the outside as we come in towards the hairpin now. Sundstrom's going to go a bit deep. Bart Matcher's going to try for a little bit of a cutback. Is there enough room? He had a little bit of a look, but not quite the space to do it. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of pressure you need to put on. And Bart Matcher, at the moment, he's got Sundstrom firmly looking behind him rather than in front of him.
Sundstrom, I was just going to comment on the first part of this lap. He was just looking so comfortable. He had then started finding his apexes, was on the right braking points again. But that exit out through turn 9, once again catching him off guard, runs a little bit wide, clips the sand, and that allows Matcher to reel him in. He then has gotten himself back into a good defensive position, but just look behind him what this has done. Healy Kallio, Rochette, Flores, they're all going to see what's happening here, and they're going to start to apply their own individual bits of pressure into the fight. So Sundstrom not only having to deal with Matcher shortly, but Healy Kallio really coming in. Flores and Prietti are there as well. So it looks like Flores on the inside there of Roche going to get the work done out of the exit of turn 4. Oh, not quite side by side. A little bash coming down. And that's going to send Flores running wide out through the exit of turn 5. That's going to put him back into sights of Prietti from behind. And that little 3-car battle going to be put on ice after a little tap coming through. The stewards might look into that, might not, but look like some... Oh, Matcha on the inside. He's got a better line here. This is going to force Sundstrom to go very wide on the exit out through turn 10. And that's where the work is done. Helicalio looking to see if he can also squeeze through. This is where he was robbed of a position after being passed at turn 10. But Matcha, nice, calm, cool, and collected, gets that work done within the next lap. We saw it coming through. We saw the pressure being applied. And that 899 not able to hold off any longer. Does do a good job at just minimizing risk and damage. Stays ahead of Helicalio. But we'll be wanting to reapply pressure again, I'm sure. This is where you want to, right, Ryan? After you've just been passed, this is where you can hang on, maybe try and learn some of the braking points that have been used against you, because that's where you're pretty much being passed. A little bit wide of Matcha out through turn 3. Sandstrom going to nail that apex. Helicalio as well. Those 3 cars definitely looking to switch up positions before the end of this race. Again, deep out of Repsol goes Matcha. Sandstrom made that mistake a couple of times in his defense. And the roles have switched, Rai.
They definitely seem to be fairly even on pace, that's for sure. And Helicalio, he's going to be looking to, kind of take advantage of the fact that Sundstrom has just been passed and maybe try and capitalize on the fact that Sundstrom's aware that Bart Match has got behind him. He's aware that Helicalio is right on his tail, and it seems to be this part of the track specifically that Sundstrom is struggling in. He seems to be really good in the first sector and then not too bad in the second sector, but the third sector is where he does seem to struggle as Bart Matcher goes a bit deep on the brakes now. And I think this kind of just falls into one of the sayings that, I've repeated for a while now that I've stolen from a racing driver who I can no longer remember the name of. It is easier to follow than it is to lead. And that's one of the things you're starting to see here. People making an overtake, but not exactly pulling away from everyone. And you can see that even up towards the front of the grid. It's still only 0.8 of a second between the likes of Martin Lawrence and Andrzej Dedicek. Dedicek not allowing Lawrence to just pull away from him at all. And, I think it is going to be one of the trends for a few of these, kind of trains tonight is whoever ends up at the front, they're not going to find it that easy to pull away.
Oh, you've got a lot of drivers here that are very equal in terms of skill levels and pace. Mike Noble not entering into this round has opened up things up at the front, and you can just see that 43 minutes left of the race to go. First and second, sub a second gap between them, the 171 and that number 48 battling out. Lawrence versus Dedicek, and behind them Matt Samuel also 1.5 seconds down the road. So that's certainly not a gap to scoff at. One small mistake and that quickly becomes something doable. And if Lawrence and Dedicek get into their own individual battles, the stream and the broadcast tonight has borne pretty much evidence to just how much time it costs drivers on track, and that time on track benefits the people behind. Roche getting a 5-second time penalty added onto his name there in that number 21, I see, Ryan. So the cheeky flags, the naughty notes, starting to be waved around.
Yeah, we haven't had much in terms of stewarding to bring to you guys because the incidents that we caught, which was that incident on lap 1, just judged as a racing incident by the stewards. And then, of course, we saw another incident, which was judged to be a racing incident as well by the stewards. However, Peter Roche, who, if you remember, had a little bit of a touch with Giacomo Peretti or was it Daniele Flores? I can't quite remember the exact car that it was. And, just had a little bit of a push on him as he got past him. And the stewards have judged that that was a forceful overtake in their eyes, that touch was completely unnecessary, and that the touch, kind of added to Daniele Flores not being able to fight back for that position. So they've judged that that is worthy of a 5-second penalty. I don't really have much to say on that one, really. It seems fairly slam dunk. It seems fairly straightforward to me. You said that the stewards might have a look at it, and, well, they indeed have, and have decided that that is the verdict. And I don't think you can have any complaints about that, really.
No, I think that's a fair verdict coming down. 5 seconds, the very smallest time penalty infringement that you can have added coming through. So, a driver getting that can always be considered lucky, I feel, in my opinion, when the stewards give you the lighter side of life. So for that driver, lesson learned coming into the next rounds. Another racing series coming through. Live stewarding here at Racing Club International. No tolerance of things that are frowned upon, and the guidelines and the adherence to them followed out to a T. So Bart Matcher hasn't managed to shake the likes of Sundstrom as they make their dance down into the final chicane. The two of them have continued to stay within a couple of car lengths of one another. Helicalio and Roche have kind of dropped off from the two of them, so that's not going to be a 3 or 4 car battle, but the two of them will continue out. And Sundstrom looked so comfy coming out of the exit of turn 3 on the previous lap. Does he set something up here? Matcher made a bit of a mistake on the braking zone. He came in and missed the entire inside apex. This time round, both of them going to hug it and nail it. Sundstrom not quite getting it as good as Matcher has, and the exit will go the way of the number 55 coming down into Repsol, and he's nailed his braking zone there as well. So it's that double complex that has cost both these drivers time in the previous laps, and they're going to kind of know this. They're also going to be struggling with their tires, their grip. Like you mentioned right at the start, it's not going to change. 14 degrees track temperature. You are fighting for grip, and you're doing so with other cars on the circuit, staying on that knife's edge, and it's not an easy thing to do. So some incredibly close racing in all parts of our pack. Up the front, Dedicek and Lawrence also keeping things nice and clean and tidy, but you can see on those timing sheets, a couple of these guys really are trying to fight for these points. They want to take it all the way to the very end, and why not? Why not better your position, Ryan?
Definitely so, and something that I'm seeing, George, fairly early on here is there's a lot of different strategies going on over the course of this race. You can see everyone outside of the top 10 has come in and served a mandatory pit stop, and in fact, looking down the order, we have lost a driver, haven't we? We started with 18, and we have lost someone. I'm struggling to put my finger on exactly who that was. That we have lost. It's not one of the cars that was involved in an early accident towards the beginning of the race, although it was fairly clean, to be fair. I wouldn't expect any significant damage on any of these cars, but we have lost someone. We'll try and get to the bottom of who exactly that is and what the reason may be, but we are one driver short, and strategy's going to be interesting to see how they all play out.
I'm trying to peer out from the pit box here to see the team packing up the trailer. But from my side, it's also not quite evident who has departed early from the race. Like you said, Ryan, 18 cars started out, 17 remain on board with our race leader, Martin Lawrence, in that 171. Getting the pedal to the metal, starting to peel away and build up a little bit of a buffer to Dedicek behind him. Dedicek, you'll see him in that rearview mirror. He's not going to leave any time soon. And with the pressure still on, race pit stop strategies still to serve out for a lot of the field. First to 10th still to go in. You mentioned it before. We want to keep an eye out on the likes of Guglia and Matt Samuel to see how their different pit strategies have played out. But for now, it's all about just managing this gap. Martin Lawrence doing a great job up at the front at just keeping himself away from any danger by not losing concentration. It's difficult to lead. Very difficult to lead.
I have just realised, George. I can see them down in the pit lane now. It's Wojciech Burgos's car that is missing from the grid. He qualified. I think he was the final position in qualifying. I think he was 18th, and not quite sure what's happened to him over the course of the race, but he has unfortunately had to drop out. We didn't see anything regarding his car, so maybe technical failure, not entirely sure. We'll have to see if we can get any clarity on that later on, but something that our producer has just informed us of is that Guglia is 0.5 of a second quicker than Matt Samuel on the previous lap, and our live timing does tell us that indeed. That is verified, and I think it's fair to say that with the clean air that Alexander Guglia has found himself in, he's probably been lapping about 0.5 of a second quicker fairly consistently, and the question is that 0.5 of a second quick enough to allow him to close in to the likes of Martin Lawrence and Ondrej Dedicek? Could we have a three-way battle for the lead of the race once those two have come in and served their pit stops? We'll have to find out. But coming back to this, Mikael Sundstrom hanging on to the back of Bart Matcher has not allowed him to pull away, and 35 minutes of this race remain. We're almost at the halfway mark, but still a long way to go for all of these guys, and pit stops pending for the top 10. We've seen it go so wrong so many times, haven't we, George, concerning pit stops? Drive-through penalties for speeding in the pit lane, people missing their pit boxes, so many things can go wrong. And it's one of those things that, we have touched on before, is that practicing your pit stops, it's pretty important. And those that typically don't practice their pit stops end up paying the price in the long run.
You say it, you name it, we've seen it. All kinds of infringements come down. We've seen some interesting pit entries as well. Some of those get caught out on cameras at the same time. But Ryan, it is important. That can really destroy all the hard work that you've put in on the driving front. And as these guys continue to scrap it out, they've also got to deal with the fact that the lighting conditions are changing up. That sun getting or setting even more so after the last 34 minutes. And you can just see how the lighting side of things disappears for us. It gets darker for the guys in the car than it does for us as broadcasters. But that sort of phase, that transition phase, there's also a place that you can potentially catch someone off guard. It is all parts of the variability. It wouldn't be there if it didn't add a little hint of change and a little hint of difference in a skill level required as the darkness comes down. And you can just see here Dedicek wanting to make sure that he can stay in that beneficial position for as long as possible. If he's got anything to prove in the nighttime, he's certainly setting himself up to be in the right position to prove it to us tonight.
Yeah, Ondrej Dedicek, of course, was part of the Project Alien team that had James Parker in it in the Endurance Championship, and he definitely learnt a lot from that experience with having someone like James Parker alongside him. I missed out on a big opportunity there. James Parker was, as much as he may deny this, there is text evidence in a chat. He was willing to take me on for the Project Alien team, but unfortunately, I had broadcasting duty, so Ondrej Dedicek got the spot instead, and it's definitely benefited him. We're starting to see, the rewards of that championship, and he really has kind of thrust himself into the spotlight and a lot of the pro races that we've got going around here, and of course that's benefited his teammates as well. Bart Matcher's been improving a lot lately, and Peter Roche as well, and of course all of them driving for the Connection Lost Racing team. So when it comes to endurance racing, these guys find themselves way further up the grid than they usually would. And speaking of further up the grid, Ondrej Dedicek right on the back bumper of Martin Lawrence as they came towards the end of the hairpin. So Ondrej Dedicek, he's starting to find some pace now compared to the likes of Martin Lawrence. It's starting to get into that little transition period that you mentioned, George, where it could swing one way and then the other. And at the moment, I think it's starting to swing the way of Ondrej Dedicek. Is he starting to put the pressure on his teammate just a bit?
Oh, I mean, it's certainly starting to look that way. Dedicek getting himself really nice and close to the exit at turn 10 there. And he's certainly lining himself up to have a good look. Look at the back here. We see a 3-car battle. Bart Matcha having made that mistake. Looks like Sandstrom coming through. Helicalio going to be on the inside for the entry. It's the exit that's important. Entry coming down. And Matcha won't be able to fight this Helicalio on that inside line through turn 3. They are going to still stay 2 cars abreast through the exit, though. And this is all going to be decided for the braking zone of Repsol. The inside line going to be there. But, oh, Matcha with a mistake on the brakes there. Manages to get the car back towards the right direction. The back end trying to overtake the front wheels. But Helicalio will... Oh, it's Roche that's putting pressure on here. Roche is putting a lot of pressure onto Helicalio, and they are going to switch back up into the chicane. That's a break. Oh! I mean, that's a big ooh moment for sure, because the... I mean, sending it into that complex of corners, right? Danger zone, right? Helicalio was then obviously trying to hold on. Roche had gone a little bit deep coming down, and it's not what you want to see, but that was 2 drivers pushing a little bit hard.
Well,
and the stewards, that's their decision, right?
Well, it is their decision to make, but Peter Roche is actually back in front of Helicalio. Helicalio has slowed down to let Peter Roche through. Obviously feels that he was at fault for that incident. And Peter Roche now going to come into the pit lane to serve his mandatory pit stop and that 5-second penalty that he picked up earlier on in the race. But interesting to see that. Helicalio slowing down and saying, I think that was my fault, and letting Peter Roche back through. Of course, the stewards will still look at the incident regardless, but if it is judged to be Helicalio's fault, then he will get a much less severe penalty, because he did slow down to let Peter Roche back through, and it's good to see that it's good to see that sportsmanship.
For sure. I would love to be able to see another view of that at some point, because it's such a difficult part of the track to come through. And, if you have a bit of a send, right, a little bit of a missile coming down, and then you have to over slow the car to correct it to come back through. The car behind you then is following at a decent race pace. You're on the very right side of the circuit. There's not much room to give one another on that part. I think there's a lot of interesting parts to that scenario that are going to be looked at.
Well, interesting here. Our producer George has just informed me that there was no contact between Helicalio and Roche. So that's fairly interesting then. If no contact was picked up, was that just Peter Roche making a mistake?
To me, I mean, that's why it's strange that Helicalio slowed down, because he would know if he hit. He would know if he hit Peter Roche, surely. For sure, but I mean, I think the tap that even comes through there is such a small thing. If it did take place, we got to remember that we're racing online against a bunch of people from all over the world, and you've got that net coding side that can to play effect. So there's always that slight risk of putting it door to door, but a very risky place to try and make a move. Helicalio doing the gentlemanly thing, giving the position back, feeling that he had caused it. And, you know, I can't argue against what drivers are going to do. I just found it a very interesting scenario overall. And the fact that, like you said, the actual sim didn't pick up a contact coming through between them, strange. Very strange.
We'll wait
that
and see.
The position is given back, yeah.
The stewards will look into it anyway. You know, they do a great job here at RCI, and you know they'll look into everything. And whilst they look into that incident, we'll refocus on the lead of the race, and more importantly, how Ondrej Dedicek is pressuring Martin Lawrence for the lead of the race. The two of them have been fairly close together for the entire race, it has to be said. The biggest gap between them has been about 1.1 seconds. But over the last few laps, Ondrej Dedicek has been shrinking that gap, and it's been as close as even a tenth of a second at some points during the last few laps. Half a second as we cross the line to start yet another lap. Here is Alexander Guglia making his way past David Gill. And he is moving himself up into 8th place. And of course, he is the highest placed cars of all those that have finished their mandatory pit stop. So interesting to note where he comes out. We're expecting him to come out ahead of the likes of Matt Samuel once Samuel finishes his mandatory pit stop. Jesperi Hilakalio into the pit lane as well, I've just seen. And here is Andreas Keiferlein on the likes of Marcus Stein. Or is this Marcus Stein? Or is this Jan Matthias, actually? No, this is Jan Matthias that he's having a look at here. And he has got past the likes of Jan Matthias and moves himself up into 14th place.
Lots of drivers here going to be using these pit stops as their sort of gauge to where they can then find themselves out on the circuit. This battle here between drivers having served that. Looking forward to seeing where Samuel and Guglia come out. Guglia's pace showing that he's certainly making big moves coming through past David Gill, who has yet to go into the pits there. So like you said, lots of work being done down, a little bit deep coming down from Andreas Keiferlein in that number 40 out through turn 2. Does get it settled out for the exit of turn 3. And the pressure still going to continue to come out. I mean, interestingly enough, Ryan, the sun continues to disappear. The track now seems to just kind of hold that temperature out, 14 degrees. So for the drivers here, past the halfway mark, they kind of know what the conditions are like. They know what the grip levels are like. And I guess those grip levels will continue to deplete as they use up the available rubber on the tire sets that they're using.
Yeah, I mean, these guys will have had an entire week to kind of practice on the practice server and kind of see how the conditions would pan out. But yeah, everything's seeming to stabilize around 14 degrees track and ambient temperature. And that, you know, kind of reflects rather nicely on what we saw towards the end of practice. That we saw it was around 14 degrees, and this kind of light level that we were seeing towards the end of the practice session. Of course, we're about 8 minutes away from when the end of practice would have been, but we'll be going a bit further than that. And obviously, as it stands right now, Martin Lawrence still leading the race. He has led from start to finish, but it's not been made easy for him with the likes of Ondrej Dedicek putting that pressure on him at the moment. And we still await to see Ondrej Dedicek try and put a move on the likes of Martin Lawrence. He's got so close towards the end of the back straight yet again. And this seems to be, you know, kind of the pace that's being set here by these two, is that Dedicek gets close. He gets very close, but he doesn't quite get close enough, and he doesn't quite find the gap to have a move on the inside.
Just got to keep it nice and clean and all together, because at this point in the race, you've been settling into a little two-car battle. These two have pulled away from the likes of Samuel, so it really is going to be decided out by them. And it hasn't felt like there's been too much holding up. Almost the two of them working together to pull themselves away from whoever's sitting in third place, so that regardless of where things go in, they are going to come out of this in a good spot. So not too much battling between the two of them is going to benefit their own race, and it's going to then disadvantage Guglia's strategies if the two of them work together. Racing drivers, we've said it many times before, not always going to do this, but when two drivers are separated by small tenths, small hundreds across the circuits, it just kind of goes that direction. They sit in each other's or Dedicek, should I say, sits in the slipstream of Lawrence. Even he makes a smaller mistake through the exit of some of the corners, he can reel him back in, and really good classy racing coming out from the two leaders here.
Of course, teammates as well, so they are a bit less inclined to have contact with each other, and I'm sure that's one of the things that they won't be looking forward to with the 9 hour being so close, is that you don't want to rustle up the team atmosphere so close to what is going to be the last big endurance event of the year, or at least the last big endurance event that we'll be hosting this year. And with that tuning in rather nicely, we can just say that we do have plenty planned for next year. We kind of talked about the next Monday Cup, the 488 Evo Challenge, and then, of course, we do have our new Friday Championship. GT4 and Night Owl will be coming back, as well as the RCI Endurance World Tour, which I know, George, you're looking forward to so much. And I know you had the opportunity to be a bit of a VIP guest at the 9 hour of Kyalami this past weekend. And obviously, it wasn't quite the spectacle that you would have been hoping for. But, of course, I know that you are incredibly excited about the fact that our own Endurance Championship will be hosting next year. The World Tour will have a 24-hour race at your home circuit, and that's going to be something that not only yourself and the rest of the South Africans we have here at RCI are looking forward to. I think everyone here in the community is looking forward to it.
Absolutely. What a great race it was over the weekend. Although, limited grid based on the global pandemic, the teams that were in the championship came through. It was really nice to be able to go through and watch some racing. Everything done nice, clean, safe. At the circuit, good to see all the protocols being upheld, showing that people are making an effort to really try and fight against this thing, so you can really go back to some sort of normality coming into hopefully next year. But yeah, talking about next year, that Endurance World Cup, that's going to be a greatie. I made it pretty well known that I was keen to have a big Kyalami event, and seeing the community take to that's incredibly cool, and all very wide coming out from turn 4. I've just been surprised at how many cars here have looked like they've gone way past the murder zone and then brought it back to some sort of safety aspect, Ryan. Like, there's just been some moments in this, especially out through, turn 9, where they're coming up to now. We've just seen so many people going wide out and somehow managing to come out on top again.
It is a tricky circuit here at Barcelona, and of course, when you add tricky cars like this into the equation as well, you make the job ever more difficult for yourself. But if we weren't about punishing the drivers enough, next week for the finale of the Porsche Cup, we'll be heading to Suzuka, Land of the Rising Sun, for I think it's a 2 o'clock local time race. So if they're finding the likes of Kyalami difficult, well, not Kyalami, Catalunya, in Barcelona difficult, then Suzuka is going to be real interesting then. Of course, the S's, obviously the Degners as well, and rather famously Spoon, which catches people out plenty in a normal GT3 car. It's going to be interesting to see how all of these guys handle that, but that's in a week's time. We still have 17 minutes of racing here remaining, and it's 17 minutes in which Ondrej Dedicek has to try and get past the likes of Martin Lawrence. And it kind of feels like we're in a bit of a deadlock here. We need to wait for one of these two to come into the pit lane. Someone needs to bite first, George.
They do, or they just go in at the same time. So Matt Samuel, he will go into the pit lane, and this is the one pit strategy that we wanted to have a look at. Guglia, going in very early on, is going to be making his way out and around. We want to see where he manages to come out when he comes down to the line, and he really does have the last part of Sector 3 here to round out. Down to the chicane. Matt Samuel stationary in the pit box. And Alexander Guglia looking good here to take a position off of Matt Samuel. He's going to have a lot more speed. Matt Samuel rolling. And it is going to be a dice down to the line. But I do think that Guglia is going to have the drive down to turn 1. You will see him blasting down. And that will be a very successful pit stop strategy coming out from Guglia. He's done what he needed to do out on the circuit in terms of making up time. And our two leaders doing the same thing here. They are just going tooth and nail all the way to the very, very last moment that they have to go into the pits. Look at this. I mean, less than 0.3 of a second separating the two of them. 15 minutes on the clock. First and second now. Really starting to get interesting. The number 48 there into the bottom of turn 10, having to just back it up like a fire truck slightly. That's going to cost him in terms of the moves that he had made up through the opening part of that sector. And rolling out into the chicane, Martin Lawrence. Some breathing room once again from the attack of Dedicek.
Well, he's got David Gill right in front of him now, and that's going to prove a bit problematic for him because he has a lapped car in his way, and you know, whether the lap car moves out of the way for you immediately or not, having someone right in front of you, you know, whilst you're leading the race, it is going to compromise you slightly, whether they, you know, move out of the way immediately or not. And this is something that Andrzej Dedicek wants to try and capitalize now, is that Martin Lawrence has got that lapped car in his sights. He knows he needs to clear him, and depending on how traffic works for you, it might, you know, literally just come down.
Guglia's
getting a
putting
car.
so much time into these two cars in front of him. So I mean, based on his lap times, Ryan, like I mean, what he's lapping at is incredibly quick. So I mean, you mentioned it at the start. Could this be something that jumps him towards being able to battle with first and second? I mean, based on his lap times, I mean, it's going to be close. These two are no longer working together. They're now knowing that a small mistake is going to be costly, and that's just costing them time on track. So you've called this, Ryan. Guglia here with a big chance when these two cars go into the pits.
Yeah, so Guglia could be playing the master plan here, and that's kind of the thing that I'm thinking about is, you know, if I'm Martin Lawrence or Andrzej Dedicek, you know, do I come into the pit lane now? Do I get my pit stop out of the way? And if I am behind Guglia, at least then I've got some time to try and make it up. Whereas right now, given how close Dedicek keeps getting to the back of Lawrence, I'm getting the feeling that Dedicek's being held up a bit here.
I mean, I think it's certainly something that could be observed because it's not been easy for them. Third and what was fourth will go into the pits. Torvinen and Matcha go in to serve their stops. So these pit stops, not many laps for our leaders to really reveal those cards. I mean, it's a massive overcut that they're trying to both, I suppose, do on the likes of Guglia. Samuel hasn't managed to come out of the pits and be competitive on the back of Guglia after the pit stop has been served out. The battle down between the number 40 and 256, though, continues on. Matches defends on from Carefulin. So these two drivers continuously bringing out their best lap times, and the two of them, I suppose, also getting caught up in the same situation that our leaders are in that, it's certainly easy to follow behind other cars, but to actually make passes, that's that's a bit of a different story. We do see a backwards facing Porsche in the background of the shot of our leaders coming out from turn 10. So they make their way round out through turns 12, 11 and 12. Andrzej Dedicek needs to get something done before the end of this race, Ryan. Otherwise, I feel like he's been a bit robbed here, because he's just sat in the same spot, being almost teased by that number 171 in front of him.
Well, someone who has been robbed, and has rather robbed himself in a way, is Jarkko Torvinen, sped in the pit lane, and he's been given a 30-second stop-go penalty by the sim, and he'll have to serve that within the next 3 laps. So Jarkko Torvinen, running 6th at the moment, was doing very, very well indeed. Was running, actually, I think it was 4th place, wasn't it, when he first came in? And oh, Bart Matcher, very, very close onto the back. A little bit of a touch there on the back of Jarkko Torvinen's car as well, but not really anything doing there. Torvinen will come in to serve that stop and go penalty, and you rather think that that is race over for the likes of Jarkko Torvinen here today. Has had a bit of a rough time in the championship, and that stop and go penalty will not do his championship efforts any favour. We talked about speeding in the pit lane and how influential the pit stops can be, George, and that just shows how badly it can affect your race if you get it wrong.
There's a Lonely Island song where he just says, I just threw it on the ground. And that's what I always feel like when someone gets something after pit stop infringement, as we see more battles being brought out into turns 1 and 2. Ilicalio and the likes of Stain going to come down into turn 1. And it is always about the exit into turn 3. And it's time and time again, that alternate line coming through just does not bring you the speed that you really need to come out. And I am a fan of the night scenes that we see. A pit strategy coming then will be served up by Andrzej Dedicek. He will eventually decide to go into the pit box. Ryan, Martin Lawrence will continue out. So where does Guglia come out after all of this? Number 48. Potentially having got caught up there a little bit behind the 171. Guglia here again. Guglia's gonna have this. Guglia's coming out through the final chicane. So Guglia now on to the loud pedal. Gonna be screaming down the start-finish straight. Is he gonna have it? Dedicek, not maybe. No, I don't think he is. Dedicek is gonna get up to speed here. Oh, I don't think he has, but he's gonna be certainly close. 8 minutes to go. Based on those lap times, this could be very, very interesting.
And the question is now, does Martin Lawrence bite? Does he have to reply immediately? I would say that he does, but will he reply immediately? That's going to be one of the really important questions here. And I kind of get the feeling...
Does he have to reply now, or does he now have a little bit more space than he's had for the rest of the race? Does he really have to just focus down onto things?
I think he does have to reply now, because I think you run the risk of, yes, he hasn't got Andrzej Dedicek behind him anymore, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But at the same time, if you've been so focused with someone behind you for the entire race, and then all of a sudden they're gone, that can take you out of it. And Martin Lawrence will be replying immediately by coming into the pit lane, almost scrapes the wall on the way in. But will get the car slowed down in time, it seems, and comes into the pit lane, and he'll serve his mandatory stop. And now it's going to be interesting to see, where does Andrzej Dedicek feed out into all of this? Is that 1 lap going to be enough? I'm looking on the side here. Andrzej Dedicek's pit stop time was 46 seconds, 46 and a half seconds. Alexander Guglia's was 45.0, so Guglia about 1.5 seconds quicker on the pit stop. What about the likes of Martin Lawrence? So here comes Andrzej Dedicek. Here is the likes of Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence is rolling again, and he is going to be coming out ahead of the likes of Andrzej Dedicek. It was a 45.5, so Martin Lawrence 1 second quicker in the pit lane from the likes of Ondrej Sedicek, and you can see the results of that being 1 second quicker in the pit lane has translated to what looks to be about 2 seconds on track, George.
Correct decision to then respond immediately for Lawrence is going to come out, and definitely making up a little bit of time in the pit box. Going to work out for the likes of the number 171. Dedicek then also going to be, still under attack or under pressure from Googlia before the close of this race. That time delta between the two of them, although it says 1.9 seconds, now it has been slowly eaten into a little bit. So Googlia maybe still something to answer back on to Dedicek. Jesperi Helicalio in 10th place at the moment, is he in 10th place at the moment? Timing sheet says 11th place, and the board below his name says 10th. So currently Helicalio in 10th, according to the sheet that I normally update myself with. Number 56 chasing it down, that 555, less than half a second. So certainly trying to make up some positions there. Settles out. Timing sheet shows 11th place there for the number 56. Mikkel Sandstrom then into the pit box for the 899. The nearly on pace team going to try and get those pit stops down towards what the other drivers have done. We've seen second or two can make a difference out when you do get onto the circuit again. As we see a bunch of drivers coming down at the start, finish straight. Sandstrom comes out in 7th place.
He comes out behind Gergo Panka, who pitted right at the start of the race, remember? Pitted on lap 1 after he had that little bit of an adventure out towards turn 9. And it's come back to pay quite well for him, hasn't it? Up into 7th place. Of course, he did have a very good qualifying, put himself up into 3rd, but obviously lost a couple of positions on the start, and then, of course, had that little off, and, he's done pretty well to recover, I'd say, up into 6th place, but finds himself still with 4.5 minutes to go. Could potentially make up another place, and that's what a lot of these guys are looking at right now. They still have enough time to make up one more position. And if there is going to be accidents about, maybe make up a couple of positions indeed. Helicalio still showing 11th on our left timing board, but then on the right showing in 10th. So I think the ACC timing screen having a bit of a malfunction at the moment, but we'll stay with the one that we have on the left-hand side, as I believe that is probably the most accurate one we have right now. Now it's switched to 11th place, so as soon as I call it out for being an issue, it has gone and fixed itself. So there you go, IT support tips for you in the future. Just call it a problem and it'll fix itself. Anyway, back to the front of the pack. Ondrej Sedicek leads the way. 2 seconds between himself. Martin Lawrence leads the way, from Ondrej Sedicek. 2 seconds is the gap between them. And you kind of get the feeling, George.
The biggest gap we've seen between them all race after the pit
It
stops.
is. And you kind of get the feeling, looking at it right now, should Ondrej Sedicek have blinked first? Or should he have waited?
I think I think he should have waited there. I mean, they'd both gone really late in their overcut. Wouldn't have harmed him to kind of follow Lawrence in to see where Lawrence had gone in. And obviously wasn't losing the time that we may have thought he was. Googlia is losing a lot of time to Dedicek. So that 3rd and 2nd place battle, not going to happen down with 2 minutes 30 on the clock unless something goes a little bit catastrophic from either driver. Not something we want to have happen, but stranger things have happened on board with Lawrence coming down into the entry of turn 10. Nice on-board shots from inside our Porsche Cup car here for Racing Club International Porsche Cup. This is our penultimate round at Barcelona. 1 round to go to decide out where everybody settles for the end of the championship. And a lot of interesting battles taking place here from the start. between the drivers up towards the front and in the mid-pack. Saw Lawrence eating a little bit of curb on the entry to turn 14 for the chicane, and managed to get the car under control again. They are fun-looking cars. They are fun cars to drive. They've got that bouncy, loose nature to them, and you gotta also respect them at the same time. They will absolutely punish you if you do not.
And here is Bart Matcher, and he's got the likes of Gergo Panker alongside him, is it not? Oh no, that's Matt Samuel, I think it is, going past him just now. Or was he already ahead of him? I think he was already ahead of him. Bart Matcher trying to put pressure on the likes of Matt Samuel, but not quite able to do so, and still finds himself behind Matt Samuel. Had a really good start to the race, didn't he, Matt Samuel, taking those 2 places right at the start, and then has had a fairly quiet race from that moment on. Meanwhile, Jesperi Hillicalio, the man that is sitting second in the championship at the moment. That will change come the end of this race, though. He hasn't really had the best time of it, has he? Down in 11th place, and it's been quite difficult for him, and I think this is going to compromise his championship standing quite a bit here with how close the top 5 were, coming into this race, and knowing that he was second at that point in time. He's going to be punished a lot here, but Bart Matcher has made a mistake coming out of the hairpin. Is Gergo Panker going to be able to capitalize on this? He's on the inside. They're going to go side by side. Bart Matcher on the outside, and Gergo Panker makes the overtake happen, capitalizes on the mistake. Are we going to get one more lap? We are going to get one more lap. It was close.
I watched our leader literally cross the line just before that timer hit 1 second. So an additional lap coming down. Now, have these drivers planned their fuel correctly? When it normally comes down to these situations, that additional lap can always be a little bit difficult to make sure that you fueled it to the line. Can Panker hold off Matcher down on the last lap here? What a move coming down to put himself into the position to defend into the top 5. The gold glistening in the headlights from Matcher's number 55 as they come out of the exit from turn 3. Now into Repsol. Got to make sure you get that inside apex. Both of them struggling a little bit. Tires are worn, and the grip is very, very little. And they are pushing it all the way. Matcher late on the brakes into turn 5 there, Ryan. The 2 of them are going to take this to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and something else I've noticed, George, the gap between Martin Lawrence and Andrzej Dedicek, only half a second now. I wonder if Martin Lawrence had slowed down to try and see out the end of the race on the previous lap, and it hasn't quite paid off for him. And that's brought Andrzej Dedicek close to the back of him. We're into the final sector. Martin Lawrence has got traffic ahead of him as well. The traffic looks to pull over to the side, not going to get involved in this battle. And Martin Lawrence has 3 corners to go. 1, 2, and the final one is here. So it looks like it will be pole position to win for the likes of Martin Lawrence. The Connection Lost Racing team will take a 1-2 here at Barcelona, Catalonia. Little tap from Dedicek as they cross the line.
I bet you Lawrence actually even ran out of fuel there.
He definitely hasn't. He definitely hasn't. But Guglia will round out the podium. Matt Samuel 4th. Gergo Panker does beat Bart Matcher to the line for 5th. Matcher will cross in 6th. Sundström 7th. Flores in 8th. This is the likes of Jesperi Hillicalio still fighting for that 10th place, but Giacomo Peretti will take 9th. Marcus Stein will round out the top 10. Hillicalio does miss out. Kai Verlein will come around the final corner. He will finish P12. Matthias in P13. And it looks to see that Peter Roche, Jarkko Torvinen, and David Gill will finish 14th, 15th, and 16th, respectively. Jonathan Bent finishing a lap down in 17th place.
Big race coming out from a lot of the drivers here. We expected it to be interesting down to the line, and it didn't disappoint. A lot of that mid-pack being so close between a lot of the point-sitting positions up for grabs. So from the drivers here, I mean, they brought their all. The night transition coming out, giving us some beautiful scenery as we round out with David Gill out from turn 16. He will take home 16th place for himself in that number 80. What an incredible race it was from everybody here. And I thoroughly enjoyed it as the temperature continues to plummet down.
I have done the maths quickly, just to make sure that I was correct on my assumptions. So with Martin Lawrence taking fastest lap of the race, pole position, and the win here tonight, he's closed the gap between himself and Mike Noble to just 10 points, George, coming into the final round of the championship. Mike Noble should be back for the final round of the championship. And, well, we weren't expecting to get a season finale with a championship on the line, but we'll take it either way. And, of course, he's not going to be the only one in for the championship fight as well. The likes of Ondrej Dedicek will have thrown themselves in that mix as well. Bart Matcher, Mikael Sundstrom, and a few others will also be in potential contention as well here in a week's time. And, of course, I will have George Smith alongside me for that race as well. And whilst we're here, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. You can see the final standings there on the screen. We just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has decided to spend their evening here at RCI TV for the Porsche Cup. We thoroughly hope that you've enjoyed the broadcast here today. If you have, you can hit subscribe and like to let us know that we're doing a good job. And, of course, you can check out our partners and sponsors that you can see on the bottom of the banner. There you can see Race Department, obviously, who helped RCI get off its feet, AK Informatica, who help run our servers, and Race Face Speed Labs. If you want some professional coaching from some of South Africa's very best, you can check out them and use RCI coaching code to save on your next Speed Labs session. They also have replay review sessions for a much lower price if you're just looking for some quick tips from some of the best. So you can check all of that down in the description below. But George, I think it is about time that we sign off for this evening. So thank you very much for everyone. We will be back in a week's time. We have the 9 hour coming up on Saturday. Make sure to tune in for that one as well. And you could check out Jadia's stream during the 9 hour for some awesome giveaways courtesy of Fanatec and GT Omega. But from us here at Racing Club International, from the broadcasting staff and from the stewards and everyone else here involved, thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your evening.